I want to take a step back and look at the Arc 3.0 subclass on the Hunter and pair that with the Assassin's Cowl exotic helmet. So in today's vid, I'm going to give you two builds. One's going to be more of a normal build for mid-tier activities and lower, just basically a general build, and then one's going to be for a little more high-end and survivability. Like I mentioned, the exotic we're going to be looking at is the Assassin's Cowl. So this is what it looks like normally, and it actually has an ornament that I think looks pretty dope. I really like this, honestly. But let's go over its perk. Vanishing Execution. Powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. Let's go over what I'm using under the Arc 3.0 subclass. So super wise, I'm using Gathering Storm over, Arc Staff. Gathering Storm is just so OP, as we know. Great damage super in general. So next up, ability wise, I'm going with Gambler's Dodge. The reason I'm doing this is because dodging near an enemy fully recharges your melee ability, and then I'm pairing that with Combination Blow, a quick strike that temporarily increases your melee damage when defeating a target, stacking up to 3 times. Then defeating targets with this ability also fully refills your class ability energy and restores a small amount of health, which is going to be pretty good here. Jump-wise, you can use whatever you want. We do have Blink here on the Hunter. I'm glad it's back, but not really necessary for this PvE-centric build. Grenade-wise, I just have on Storm Grenade, but honestly, you can use any grenade that fits your fancy pretty much. Now, aspect-wise, first up, I have Lethal Current. After dodging, your next melee attack has increased lunge range, jolts the target, and creates a damaging aftershock. Damaging any jolted target with melee attacks also blinds them. So you get jolt and blind, more range, basically just all improvements all around for the melee here. And then next up I have Flow State. Defeating a jolted target makes you amplified. While you are amplified, your dodge recharges more quickly, you are more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is greatly increased. Now, you could potentially use Tempest Strike here. Again, this is the melee. So when you slide, you activate your charged melee, you unleash a devastating uppercut attack that travels along the ground in front of you, damaging and jolting targets on its hits, which, pairs up pretty well with something like Flow State because you'll get amplified when you jolt a target. But the problem is, having Combination Blow and Tempest Strike do not work together in the sense that if you proceed to use Tempest Strike for every melee kill, it does not stack Combination Blow. You have to get that regular melee off with Combination Blow to get ×3. So I'm really not too worried about using Tempest Strike. I would just focus on Lethal Current and Flow State. Now, the fragments I'm using, first up we have Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. As we know, that's going to be pretty good here. Spark of Amplitude. Rapidly defeating targets while you are amplified creates an orb of power. Again, this is going to be good for you and your allies. Next up, Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. Again, melee-centric build. Finisher-centric build, I should say. But again, still. And then lastly, we have Spark of Volts. Finishers make you amplified. Again, this is just because it pairs well with Assassin's Cowl. But if you did not want to use this one, again, you could pair up any other, one of these fragments that you'd want. You could go Spark of Beacons if you are going to be rocking an Arc special weapon. So when you're amplified, it'll create that blinding explosion. Again, if you want your grenades to jolt targets, jolting a target creates an ionic trace. Again, we don't really need ionic traces for this build in particular. I just thought this would work well with regular and high-end activities if you need to get amplified. Now let's go over the armor mods that I'm using for build number 1. So like I said, build number 1 is going to be more general, again, for mid-tier and lower activities. You can try to toss this in the high-end if you'd want to, because Assassin's Cowl is just good for that in general, but again, don't really have to worry about it. But first up, Assassin's Cowl, I have this as Arc, so I could put on Well of Ions. Again, picking up an Arc Elemental Well causes your next melee to deal increased damage, then also Hands-On, which comes on the Arc, armor, but gain bonus super energy on melee kills, so both of these are going to pair up really well. Now next up on my gauntlets, I have Solar, but you could go Void, and I'm going to talk about why. But the Elemental Well mount I'm using is Phantom Might. Picking up an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type grants a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that same elemental type. Now on Solar, you can have something like Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown, which again, if you're going to be getting melee kills, you might as well have that cooldown for the grenade. But in general, if you have a Void armor piece, you could put on something like Bolstering Detonation. Again, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade, or Focusing Strike grants ability energy when you cause damage with a melee attack. So again, this is focusing on getting that dodge back. Now granted, with Combination Blow, you shouldn't have to worry about that, but that is something to keep in mind. On my chest piece, I'm rocking Void, but that doesn't really matter since I'm rocking Melee Wellmaker, which you can put on any armor piece. But powered melee combatant final blows spawn elemental wells matching your subclass energy type, so when we get that melee kill, it's going to spawn an Arc Elemental Well. Now on my boots here, if you want to focus on using the finisher, I would put on Overcharge Wellmaker here. Defeating a combatant with the finisher spawns 2 Arc Elemental Wells. Again, that can be good for you and your allies. If you did want to substitute this one, you could go with something like Font of Wisdom. You know, picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary significant increase to your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. Pretty much makes your intellect 100 for about 30 seconds or so. But you could put on Font of Might, and the reason for that, you'd be like, David, why do you want 2 Fonts of Might? Well, we are also using on our class item here Elemental Time Dilation, which gives a bonus to time benefits on any of those elemental wells that have time benefits, like, you know, Well of Ions with the melee and Font of Might. So Font of Might would last longer for arc weapons. So again, if you did want to rock double Font of Might, you could do that as well. But we're also rocking Monochromatic Maestro. Now, I know it's only for this season, but again, this thing is so good. Pretty much if you deal damage with your arc abilities, you're going to get bonus to arc weapon damage. And for this particular, since it's arc weapons, again, this goes for Solar and Void as well, and Stasis, so keep that in mind. But dealing damage with those weapons also grants increased damage to your ability, so your melee and any of those other abilities will be able to do more damage, which is going to be pretty good. If you're not catching the synergy for build number 1, let me run through it. So first up, let me just go over the mods, and then I'm going to cover the exotic and the subclass. So first up, Melee Wellmaker. We're going to get that melee kill. That's going to spawn an Arc Elemental Well. We're going to pick that up. Well of Ions is going to kick in, and Font of Might. So we're going to have more damage on our next arc melee attack, and then all of our arc weapons are going to have bonus damage. With Elemental Time Dilation, all those things are going to last longer. And like I said on the boots, if you do get finishers with Overcharge Wellmaker, you're going to spawn 2 arc elemental wells. So again, that can help you. But if you did want to go Font of Wisdom, that will make your intellect 100 for 30 seconds. And then with Elemental Time Dilation, that does add on a couple of seconds to that. So again, we're getting all those bonuses. We're going to get that melee kill. Now, like I said, any powered melee kill or finishers grant invisibility and healing. So we're going to get healed, and we're going to be invisible, which is going to be great. So you can dodge near target while you're invisible to gain your next melee, because again, gamblers dodge on the subclass. If you dodge near an enemy, you get your melee back. And again, with Combination Blow, the next melee attack, we're going to get we're going to get our dodge back, we're going to go invisible, and we're going to get bonus damage from Combination Blow because it stacks up to ×3. Now, with all of our fragments, again, once we're near target, Spark of Resistance is going to kick in. We're going to get even more damage resistance. We're going to be rapidly defeating targets when we're amplified, because, again, whenever we get a melee kill, that jolts targets, and jolting makes us amplified, so we're going to be creating orbs from Spark of Amplitude. Spark of Feedback, if we're ever meleeed, we're going to do even more melee damage. And again, with Spark of Volts, if you need a finisher, anytime you do a finisher, you will become amplified, which, again, is just going to help out tremendously across the board. So, essentially, you are an infinite melee machine. You're getting constant healing, you're getting constant invisibility, and again, if you do need to use your weapons, those will have bonus damage as long as they are arc weapons. Now let's go over the mods I'm using for build number 2. Now, like I mentioned, build number 2 is for mid-tier and higher, so this is going to give us a lot of survivability, a lot of damage resistance, so keep that in mind. Everything on the subclass is going to be the same as build number 1, so again, like I mentioned, if you do want to substitute a couple things here and there, you can go ahead and do so. I'm not going to stop you. So first up, on our helmet, I have it arc still, but instead of Well of Ions, I actually put on Reactive Pulse. Now, while you're charged with light, when you take damage while surrounded by combatants, you emit a burst of damaging arc energy, consuming 1 stack of charge of light. That's not really the thing I was looking for here, but it does help. But if we put on another arc mod, again, we have hands-on again, gain bonus super energy on melee kills, you gain a powerful overshield while performing your finisher. Again, being able to finish targets in something like high-end PvE, Master, Grandmaster Nightfalls, you know, Master Raids, Master Dungeons, being able to perform a finisher with that overshield is going to give you a lot of survivability, as we know, especially against champions, right? Because we've all known a unstoppable ogre that can just melee you whenever it feels like it, even though you're performing a finisher. So again, that's what we're using on the helmet. Now for the gauntlets, like I mentioned last time, you can do Solar or Void gauntlets here because I'm rocking Elemental Charge. Again, become Charge of Light by picking up an Elemental Well, and if the Elemental Well's elemental type matches your subclass element, you gain 2 stacks of Charge of Light. Now on our chest piece, it is Void because we're rocking Reaping Wellmaker. After activating your class ability, your next weapon final blow on a combatant spawns a Void Elemental Well. Now my boots here, I do have them as Arc, but I have Melee Wellmaker here. Powered Melee Combatant Final Blow, spawn an Elemental Well matching your subclass energy type. If you did not want to go Melee Wellmaker, like I mentioned, you could go Overcharge Wellmaker. Again, defeating a combatant with a finisher spawns 2 Arc Elemental Wells. Considering getting a melee or getting a finisher automatically helps you with Assassin's Cowl, you're pretty much getting the same benefit. It's just with the finisher, you have to get them in finishing range and blah blah, and then not die going for the finisher, versus the melee. Again, if you're already up close personal, you have Combination Blow ×3. Again, it's going to be really easy with that melee kill. Now for our class item, I am rocking a Void class item because I have Well of Tenacity. Picking up a Void Elemental Well reduces the damage you take from combatants for a short period of time. Now, You could rock Monochromatic Maestro here, but since we are going to be doing more high-end activities with this, I do want to cover some mods that come with this season, and typically mods that come with almost every season when it comes to dealing with champions. So first up, Lucent Finisher is back. Defeating a Lucent Hive Light Bearer or champion with your finisher spawns a heavy ammo for you and your allies. So again, that's going to be pretty good for high-end activities. Everybody wants more heavy ammo, obviously. Now, another one to look into is Advanced Scout. Champions you stun take additional damage from your teammates. So again, you stun them, teammates do more damage. Fantastic. Love to see it. Now, the last one here is Low Entropy Superconductor, which again, stasis and arc melee ability stun unshielded combatants, which is strong against unstoppable champions. Now, I wouldn't recommend running up to a champion with your arc melee just to hit them, because again, you find a lot of the time that sometimes they like to hit back before you even hit them. So again, maybe don't use this for Grandmaster. You probably could use it for Master and not get absolutely bozoed, but again, anything lower than Master, I would rock this if there's Unstoppable Champion. You just run up, especially if combination blow ×3, you're just going to blast right through them. If you're not catching the synergy for build number 2, let me run through it. So first up, let me just go over the mods. So again, either using Melee Wellmaker or Overcharge Wellmaker, we're going to create an Arc Elemental Well from either the Melee or a Finisher. Again, we're going to pick that up. That's going to give us Charge of Light ×2 from Elemental Charge, which again, that's going to give us Reactive Pulse. So anybody that melees us, it's going to emit that Electric Shock, that Arc Shock, which can weaken targets, which again, can put them in Finisher range. And just know, any Finisher that we do, Finisher Bulwark from Reactive Pulse is going to kick in, so it's going to give us a big overshield whenever we go to use a Finisher. So whenever you're dodging, again, you're using Gambler's Dodge to pair with Combination Blow to get your melee up to ×3 to do more damage. Again, that's all hunky-dory. But anytime you dodge and then get a weapon kill, again, Reaping Wellmaker is going to kick in. So again, you dodge, get a weapon kill, this is going to spawn a Void Elemental Well. We pick that up. Well of Tenacity is going to kick in, which is going to be absolutely fantastic for us. So again, pairing that with everything here on the subclass, you know, Spark of Resistance, you know, you're going to be more resistance to incoming damage. Spark of Amplitude, when you're amplified, you're going to create more orbs for you and your allies. Spark of Feedback, when you're meleeed, you do more melee damage. And again, Spark of Bolts, whenever you do Finisher, you automatically become amplified. Now, anytime we get a melee or Finisher, we are going to get health back, and we are going to become invisible because of Assassin's Cowl. Now, this is going to be extremely good, especially when it comes to taking out tough targets, even champions, stuff like that. Like I mentioned, you rock Lucent Finisher. That's going to give you heavy ammo for you and your allies. Again, if you stun a target with your melee or weapons or whatever, again, your teammates will be able to do more damage there, which is going to be great. And if you decide you want to use that Arc Melee with Low Entropy Superconductor this season to get the Arc Stun on Unstoppable Champions, you could go for it. But pretty much allowing yourself to have an Overshield and massive damage resistance because of Spark of Resistance and Well of Tenacity, again, you're pretty much going to be unkillable, especially when you go invisible as well. No one's going to be able to see you. You can actually sneak up or pass targets if you need to for certain, I would say, encounters for certain activities. So again, this is more of the high-end build, like I mentioned. Now, I did wait to talk about what stats to focus on because, again, this is just for both build number 1 and build number 2. But again, focus on resilience, 100%. You want that 40% damage reduction in PvE once you have tier 10 or 100 resilience. Now, if you want to focus on other things on top of that, I would not focus on mobility or strength because you're going to get those back because of Gambler's Dodge and Combination Blow. Them working in tandem, you don't really need to worry about that. I probably wouldn't focus on recovery either, unless maybe you're in, you know, Grandmaster, Master activities where you need health regeneration fast. But again, if you get a Finisher, you're getting healed, going Invis, you know, big Overshield from, you know, Finisher Bulwark. Again, you don't necessarily need to focus on recovery, but the only other 2 stats you could focus on is Discipline and Intellect. So if you want to focus on those 2 on top of Resilience, go for it. But again, just make sure you have 100 Resilience. Now for some weapon options, honestly for build number 2, doesn't really matter what weapons you use. But for build number 1, since we do have Fonts of Might, we want to focus on arc weapons because those weapons will be getting bonus damage. Again, looking at the Ikelos SMG, it is craftable this season. Long Arm Scout Rifle from, you know, Spiral the Watcher, Cloud Strike, Salvager Salvo. Again, any arc weapon will really do here. Again, heavy-wise, I have a very solid roll on the Terminus Horizon. Triple tap target lock. Disgusting in PvE. That's all I gotta say. Again, it's pretty much like Retrofit Escapade's cousin, except this one can have explodey, fun, volatile rounds. If you have a hothead, especially in a depth hothead with a depth big one spec to do a lot of damage to targets, again, Arc Rocket Launcher is going to be great. Pretty much any arc weapon for build number 1 is going to be good. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, that is my Arc Assassin's Cowl Hunter build for both low and high-end PvE. If you like what you saw, again, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on another one of these build videos. So if you want to stay updated with me in general, again, be sure to follow me on Twitter at ItsDaveTV. If you guys didn't know, we actually stream here 3 days a week on YouTube, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday evenings. Again, we're here on YouTube, we're not on Twitch, but again, we are mainly playing Destiny 2. I am doing Spyro the Watcher carries, but with the season slowing down a little bit before Lightfall, I will be playing some other games, some story-oriented games as well here on the channel. Again, if you do need help with dungeons, when I am doing them, just hop in the chat and say, hey, I need a run through, I need help, whatever. We are happy to help you. And if you want to be proactive, join my Discord, because that's where we're going to be chatting at. So again, we also have other topics in there like PC tech, anime, and other stuff as well. If you didn't know, we hit YouTube Partner, which is awesome. It's given us a lot of benefits here on the channel. One of those things being memberships. If you don't know what a membership is, it is essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, you're going to get access to, you know, the custom emotes, the monthly badges, and other exclusive things here on the channel. So if you want more info and more details, press the join button next to subscribe, and that will give you the rundown. But that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Hope to catch you in the next video. Cheers.